Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. We are just 6 days away now from Arsenal returning to Premier League action with that game against Nottingham Forest at the Emirates next weekend. Over the next few days, we'll really start to look ahead to that match. Honestly, I'm laughing at myself. This is genuinely about the 6th attempt I've done to start this video today. I've just been mucking it up left, right, and centre. I'm going to carry on this time, though, because I'm not sure I can deal with starting again. Classic Sunday morning fare. I think a couple of glasses of wine last night taking their toll. But anyway, yes, we will start to build up to that game against Nottingham Forest over the next few days. But we are still right slap bang in the middle of the international break. Of course, more Arsenal players in action last night. Good night for Kai Havertz getting on the score sheet for Germany. So we'll talk about that, look ahead to what's to come over the next couple of days as well. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Emirates Stadium. That story is doing the rounds again at the moment about possible redevelopment of the Emirates up to 80,000. That has been reported by Bloomberg. So we'll discuss that. I'll give my thoughts on that and whether I think that might happen or not. And yeah, lots of reaction from you guys to the Mohamed Kudus story that we were talking about yesterday. Could have done about 10 pages of that. I've whittled it down to just 1 page of reaction. But yeah, very, very split. If you go back to yesterday's show and go through the comments, you'll see how divided the opinion is on Kudus. Not so much on Kudus the player, but Kudus the 85 million price tag. Certainly a lot of divided opinions on that. But we'll start on the Emirates Stadium, shall we? Because this is a really interesting one. And I've had loads of questions about this, not just in the last sort of 48 hours since the Bloomberg story came out, but always get questions about it. How, what are Arsenal going to do with the Emirates? Can they expand it? Now, Bloomberg ran the story, I think it was yesterday it went out, or maybe the day before, saying that Arsenal are considering upping the capacity of the stadium by 33% to 80,000. So keep up with clubs, newer facilities. And this isn't obviously a story that's new. We've heard sort of rumblings of this going on for a while now, but this is the first time, it's really been pushed as a story that Arsenal are seriously considering this. It's an interesting, from discussions that I've had about this, whenever I talk to people at the club about this, I always get the sense that they're very kind of on the fence about it. There is definitely discussions being had. I mean, the Cronkies admitted that. I think I think it was Josh sat down with James Ollie from ESPN over one of the summer tours. It might even have been last summer's tour, and he basically admitted it to James. He confirmed that it was something that they were considering. Of course, they would be anyway, because the Emirates is 60,000. Obviously, it's coming up to 20 years old now, and in that time, stadiums, clubs, rival clubs have caught up with what the Emirates was. At the time, it was groundbreaking when it was built in 2006, and it gave Arsenal a huge financial advantage. But 20 years have passed now, and that financial advantage has disappeared. Tottenham have built a bigger stadium. West Ham have got a bigger stadium now. We'll wait and see what happens with Chelsea. Man City are now continuing to build at the Etihad. United are planning to build a brand new Old Trafford. Liverpool have expanded as well, and Arsenal have relatively stood still because of, it is a new stadium still. It's only coming up to 20 years old, so it's not like an old stadium, but we've seen the demand for tickets in the last few years, just how big it is and how tough fans find it to make games on a regular basis. And the ballot system, we all know the issues that causes. So it's understandable that Arsenal are looking into it. And of course, the Cronkies, have just built arguably the best stadium in the world right now in SoFi Stadium over in LA that Arsenal played at in the last couple of summers as well, and they're absolutely raking the money in from that stadium. So of course they'd be looking at what they can do with the Emirates and think, how can we make a lot more money from the ground? So it makes perfect sense that they would be looking to expand, not just in terms of seats, but in terms of finances. How do they make the stadium more of a money making machine that it already is? And it already is a good money making machine, obviously, but how do we improve on that? So all those discussions are being had, but from the conversations I've had about it, is they are still at such an early stage. We are kind of years away still from anything potentially actually happening. We're still at the very early stage of just looking at what potentially could be done, and it is a very, very complicated process. It's not just a case of build an extra tier, whack another 20,000 seats on it. It is nothing, it's not easy at all to do. And when the Emirates was built, there was very, very strong regulations sort of agreed with the council and local residents that it would not be expanded. 60,000 was as big as it was going to go. And so if Arsenal were to really actually put a lot of thought into this and genuinely try and do it, they would come up against an awful lot of opposition from the local area as well. But I mean, that's even further down the line. The stage they're at the moment is like, okay, what could we do? Is it even possible? How would we get an extra 20,000 on it? Can you go down? Can you go up? What do you have to do with the underground car park? There's so many different things that they have to explore. They're not even, I don't even think they've, got architects looking at it yet. It's that early. It's just discussions in-house going on about what potentially they could do. And then if they decide, maybe this is the route we're going to go down, then you get to the route of, okay, let's properly get some architects in, see if this is possible. But then even if you get to that, then you've got to go to the council. Then you've got to deal with all the transport links. And, do you have to expand on Arsenal tube station? Would you have to totally build a new Holloway Road tube station? It's so difficult because of where Arsenal are and and the train lines and the transport and how close they are to the local community. It's a really, really difficult process. So honestly, seeing these stories, and I'm sure you've all seen it in the last 24 hours or so, it's been going all over social media about it. As exciting as it sounds, it's at such an early stage and there is so much red tape they would have to deal with to even get this potentially off the ground. So I wouldn't get too excited about it just yet, but it is something that they are exploring and are looking at. So, but it is very, very early stages. Let me know your thoughts on that before we move on quickly. Actually, in the comments below, do you think it's possible? Do you think it's doable? Do you think it's worth it for Arsenal? Would you think the Emirates 80,000 is feasible? Would that lead to too many empty seats in certain games? Games where there's not that such a high demand as well. Let me know your thoughts on the whole thing in the comments below. Right, international-wise, few Arsenal players in action last night. As I said, a really good night for Germany and for Kai Havertz. Beats Bosnia 7-0, absolute thumping. It was Havertz scored one, set up two in their win. He was kind of playing in the number 10 role, just behind the forward. Loved his goal, actually. Really, really good move down the right-hand side. He started it, played now. I think it might be Musiala. Continued his run into the box. Musiala found him and Havertz finished it off really nicely. A couple of assists as well for him. So really good night for Havertz. Great night for the Germans as well. Jurrien Timber played very, very well by all accounts in the Netherlands' 4-0 win as well, which booked their spot into the Nations League quarterfinals. Zinchenko was an unused substitute for the Ukraine. So no injuries reported from any of the Arsenal players again in the latest round of international fixtures, which is a bonus. We've got some more in action tonight. Saliba, of course, who didn't play last time out for France, was an unused sub in their game against Israel. Will he play tonight against Italy? We shall wait and see. And Leandro Trossard, who played the full 90 minutes last time out for Belgium in their defeat against Italy, he is going to be in action against Israel away from home. And then after these games, they will return back to London. So they're going to have basically a full week at London Colney this week as well, which will be a boost for those players. I can't remember who's playing tomorrow on Monday. I think it is Spain are playing tomorrow. So Marino and Raya will be back by Tuesday. So hopefully a lot of the Arsenal squad will be back and basically going to have a full week of training this week at London Colney, which will be very nice for Mikel Arteta and the coaching staff. Ethan Nwaneri actually scored a lovely goal yesterday for England 19s in their win against Hungary. Set up by Miles Lewis-Skelly. Tommy Setford played in goal for that as well. It was 2-1 England won. But yeah, if you haven't seen Ethan's goal yet, you can find it. I posted a video on my Blue Sky account. I retweeted a tweet on Twitter as well. You haven't seen it yet, well worth it. Lovely finish from just outside the box after Lewis-Skelly found him. Elsewhere in international action last night, I thought this was quite interesting. Sweden won, and goal scorers Isak and Gyokores for Arsenal fans dreaming of strikers. It was the perfect match to watch last night. Both of them on target. Two of the strikers probably in Europe right now who are most linked with Arsenal, most talked about as potential Arsenal targets. Gyokores was speaking after the game actually about his future, and he said. I thought I had the quote there and I didn't. Apologies for that. He basically said nothing, to be fair. It was, I'll try and find the quote while I'm talking to you. But here we go. He said, I want to finish the season at Sporting. I love it here. So basically seems to be ruling out a move mid-season, although if someone goes and triggers his release clause in January, then it will give him a decision to make. But he does say there that he wants to finish the season in Sporting. And then he said, new club after that, we will see when the time comes. I want to play. That's crucial. And there will be other factors, which sounds a mad thing, isn't it? When someone scored about 80 goals in 80 games, whatever it is he's got since going to Sporting, saying that he wants to play. When he does choose a new club, if he does choose a new club, making sure that he starts every game is going to be a key factor for him. But, top clubs have got so many top strikers now that it's not given that anyone who gets signed walks straight into the team. So we'll see on Gyokores, but he does say in the quote after their win last night when he was on target yet again that he wants to finish the season at Sporting. Great win for the women yesterday in the North London derby. I saw a stat yesterday doing around. I think Arsenal women have won more games at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium than Tottenham have, which is brilliant. And it's the same for the men. Pretty well, Arsenal men have certainly won more games at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I think, that the Tottenham Hotspur have against Arsenal. Anyway, so that stadium is very much Arsenal's right now. Really dominant win for the women yesterday. Some really good goals in it. Leslie Russo, lovely strike to make it 1-0 early, and that kind of killed Tottenham's momentum early on. It was a really good strike from Russo. He's finding some lovely form right now. And then Frida scored as well, and then Stina Blackstenius obviously came off the bench and scored the third late on. Brilliant assist from Caldente to set up Blackstenius for that goal. So another really good win for Arsenal. They looked good yesterday. They found their rhythm again, haven't they? And their confidence, really. They just look a lot more confident than they did. It's been a really good start under Slegers. 6 games unbeaten now. I think it's 5 wins and a draw. They just look confident. You just watched Leah Williamson yesterday, who suffered a really sort of difficult start to the season, confidence-wise, Leah, I thought. But you look at her in the last couple of games and how so many of Arsenal's goals. Tim Stillman pointed it out, and he's absolutely right, because you just see how many goals are sort of starting from Leah passing the ball out from the back, and she just looks much more like her old self in the last few weeks. And that kind of similar with all the Arsenal women at the moment. They just look so much more confident than they did in those really difficult opening weeks of the season, which is great to see. And they said after Leah, I think it was Leslie Russo was being interviewed by BBC after the game, and she was asked by Alex Scott whether she felt that they were still in with a shout at title this season. She said yes. I mean, it's a big ask to drop so many points at the early stage of the season, but Arsenal clearly believe that they can still go on and push Chelsea for this WSL win. Chelsea obviously got a really important win against Man City yesterday at the Bridge. It would be a big ask, but it's good to see Arsenal getting a bit of momentum behind them in this early stage of the season now, and hopefully that can continue. Right, I wanted to speak about it now. I don't normally like to mention Robin van Persie because he's not my favourite person in the world, I have to admit. But I thought these were really interesting comments from Robin. Not interesting is probably the wrong word, to be fair. Just laughable comments, I thought, from Robin van Persie. He was asked a question in an interview whether he think he could go back and work as a coach at Arsenal, which just makes me laugh, just even the notion of it. And this is what Van Persie had to say. He said, I don't expect to work at Arsenal. I think that door is closed. You think? Because of my switch to Manchester United, that is my assessment. You never know in football, but that is my assessment. It is still sensitive for them. Not for me, but it is especially sensitive for the fans. I have learned that planning so far ahead makes no sense at all. Yeah, it's still very sensitive for them, says Robin van Persie. Are you surprised there, Robin? I'm not. And I think it's an absolute given that Robin van Persie would not be coming back to Arsenal in any sort of coaching capacity in the near future, even if, which he says he does, he wouldn't be against the idea, and that he's sort of over it. But yeah, he's certainly not going to be. He's certainly. It just makes me laugh. Because of my switch to Manchester United, that is my assessment. Yeah, you're probably right there, Robin. When he says you never know in football, normally that is the right sort of sentiment or right sort of comment, but you certainly know in football, in this case, Robin van Persie will not be coming back to Arsenal in the future. That ship has sailed, Robin. Right, just before we wrap this up, then, as I said earlier, there was so much reaction to the Kudus conversation yesterday when we were talking about Kudus and the links to Arsenal recently that I'm sure you've all seen. £85 million release clause. Could Arsenal potentially trigger that? Not just Arsenal. Lots of top Premier League clubs supposedly looking at that release clause and pondering whether to try and whether to get him out of West Ham. And there's so much reaction to it. These are just some of them, but there was so much more. If you want to go through them, go back to yesterday's video and scroll through the comments, and you can have a look. But just see the sort of the difference in opinion of so many people. The top there, SFP says, Charles, how do you say Kudus doesn't muscle his way into the 11? Have you seen our 11 on the left? Have you seen when Martin was out how we were just so bad? Of course he comes into the 11 on the left. And yes, 85 million should be the going rate. We played around instead of getting him as a priority, and we couldn't get him later. In fact, Kroenke owes us big time in transfers. We should get Kudus, Gyokores, and Isak. And be about 300 million splashed out on 3 players. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Would be nice though. When I say he doesn't muscle his way into the starting eleven, I don't think he necessarily does straight away. He might do when he's here. If he comes in and performs like we all know he can do, then he might well muscle his way into the starting 11. But I don't think if you sign Kudus, he immediately walks into the starting 11. Absolutely will become a very influential player straight away in the squad, but I don't think he straight away is a given that he becomes a first name on the team sheet straight away, as much as I do think he's a fantastic player. Edu there says, just like Isak and Gyokores, this boat has sailed. Transfer is coming 2 years late, 2 years too late. Kudus isn't an £80 million player. Bobby Balls says, hi, Charles. Regarding the Kudus links, I'd love him at Arsenal. He's capable of scoring or creating a goal out of nothing, which is something we lack. He's also versatile and fits the age profile. If Sterling doesn't show any signs of better form before Christmas, then I'd be happy with us paying £85 million release clause in January to get the deal done. And then, I'm not sure what that name is. Below, apologies for that. You say 85 million. I would rather take Eze or Gyokores. Kudus is good, but not 85 million good. And James says, price aside, one of the things I liked about Kudus, the little I've seen him play, he seems to be more of a direct line type of player, will come more directly at the defence. I think we could use another player of that ilk. Assuming we're interested, Gyokores might seem more destined to Man United now that Almiron is there. So lots of interesting discussion there on Kudus. I agree with the fact, is it Bobby Balls there who talks about it? He is that sort of player who does things out of nothing, Kudus. He can just score a goal, can beat his man, whip a shot into the far corner. And that is the type of player that Arsenal do miss. And it's the type of player that I know they were searching for. They didn't find that player because they didn't sign that type of player in the summer. But that was certainly what they went into the summer looking to bring someone like that in. It didn't happen. Probably, I think the guy at the top of that list was... oh my God, I've forgotten his name, Nico Williams. That obviously didn't happen. And so they then kept their powder dry and didn't spend that money on anyone else. But Kudus is that type of player. And so, and it's why I was saying yesterday, I'd be very, very excited, I think, if Arsenal did end up signing Mohamed Kudus, because I think there's definitely the type of, his type of profile is needed in the squad. I'm not sure, as has been pointed out by a few people there in the comments, that 85 million is the sort of price you want to be paying for Kudus, obviously. But then if you're signing from a Premier League rival, it's not going to come cheap. We all know that. So that might be the money it would take if you do want to sign him. That is the sort of money it's going to take. West Ham are going to point to that release clause and say, okay, if you want him, that's what you've got to pay. So ultimately, it's going to be up to Arsenal or someone else to pay that if they really do want to get him out of West Ham. But thank you so much for getting involved in your comments. Appreciate it as always. And that is about it for me today. Anything you want me to discuss in tomorrow's show, get down into the comments, just like the guys there had done before when they were talking about Kudus. Ask me any questions you want to ask, any thoughts, opinions, anything Arsenal related. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in tomorrow's show as we head into the final week of the final international break of 2024. The run up to Christmas is just around the corner. Everyone have a fantastic Sunday. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.